Hello and welcome to the Battling Barrow in Space. Or hello, welcome to the Battling Barrow and the second part of building our own copy of Space Crusade. This one we are going to be concentrating on the 4 game boards. But before we get on with the project, perhaps you can help me out with something. I'm planning on only getting 1 squad of the Marines for this, because I envision this being something I just play solo by myself. I'm going to try and work out some solo rules, and if ever I need to play it cooperatively with someone else, I can see about getting a squad in the future. But with that in mind, so I'm only going to get 1 squad. Let me know what I should paint them up as. I need to do this now, so I'll be getting the miniatures soon. Working on the miniatures soon. So let me know. I think the choices are Ultramarines, which are blue, Blood Angels, which are red, and there's another one I can't remember. That's great. Imperial Fist. I did not go off, look that up, and come back and edit this together to make me look like I knew what I was talking about. Yeah, Imperial Fist. So it's Ultramarines are blue, Blood Angels red, or Imperial Fist yellow. So let me know what ones I should, what group I should paint these up as, and let me know why. Bear in mind, I know nothing about the world of Warhammer 40k. What we're doing now, is my first experience of it. So let me know what I should paint these guys up as, and why. Let me know in the comments. That'd be a real great help. And if we do that quite soon, because I'll be hopefully, even though there'll be video for the miniatures be about 4 weeks in the future, I'm sort of doing it quite quickly, so I'm already got quite ahead on these videos and building a bit of a backlog up. Don't need to know that. Let's get on with the video. For this, I could have gone down the same route I did with the Warhammer Quest game that I made my own copy of, but I just found some scans of the board pieces, printed them out and stuck them on some chipboard. But for this, I wanted to go a bit more sort of 3D. So I'm going to 3D print these out. I found a couple of locations that have these. One was on Cult 3D, and if you want to spend a bit of money, these are probably the more game board accurate versions. Why can't I say that word today? But for the pieces I used, I got these for Thingiverse for free, and they also had some little walls in, so I thought that might only sort of half height walls, just to aid with line of sight. So the first thing I've got to do is print these out. So I downloaded them, and getting something for free is always better. I want to make this as cost as reasonably as possible. I think in the future, when it comes to the miniatures and maybe some of the card pieces, I'm going to have to hit the second-hand market. So I want to save some money as much as possible now. So this is the way I'm going to do it, by printing these off. These took a surprisingly long time to print off each board section. So the rooms are divided into A, B, C or D in the files, and there's multiple files each board section. So there's like each corridor and room in, say, board section A is its own piece. So I guess where possible I combine these together on the bed, but it still took a while, but I printed them off in the end. When they were printed off, they kind of looked a bit like this. This is a close-up of them. Looks quite good. At this stage, I was still too sure whether I was going to have them as individual pieces I could make modular, keep it modular to lay down in different formations, or whether I was going to stick it to some chipboard and stick it in the layout of the game boards. And I decided keeping them individual would be too much hassle to set up for a game. What I wanted to do was bish bash bosh, and that's a technical term, be able to quickly lay down the 4 pieces. So what I'm going to do in time is glue them onto some chipboard, but not yet. The walls at the moment are quite plain, there's no detail on them. So what we want to do now is add in some detail to them, and for this we're going to add some gubbins, greebles and thingamabobs. So I've got a quick YouTube recommendation for this that will help you in this. There's a guy called Craig Johnson on YouTube. He doesn't do tabletop, although he has built a tabletop gaming board on there, but he makes props and stuff and things out of everyday objects, trash and bits and pieces like that. So this is the inspiration I took from him for this. So I'm going to just use just little bits and pieces. So here is a key slot. I've been making my own tabletop arcade machine, and I printed off a key slot, coin slot, and this was far too small, so I'm going to use it here. I've got these my old dungeon tiles that I used to use, where I connected them with a cardboard joiner piece, you know, tab. Got rid of those, but I kept the tab, so I'm going to use these as some, just to add some wall detail in. I've got these things here. These were from the end of an Ethernet cable I got recently, and here is some dowels. If I chop those down, I can get some interesting details from there. My electrics box, my electric bits box. So I keep things from different projects, electric projects, and never know when they're going to come in handy. In my mind, I was going to expect to use them for some wiring, some projects, but here I'm going to use them for greebles. And so here I've got this little switch. So there's this lovely little button inside that I'm going to chop off and use, and even that circle bit that I've just removed the case, I'm going to use that. And as I said, if you head over to Craig Johnson's channel, Craig Johnson Makes Stuff, you see he is the master at this. He saves everything, and it's all organised. I might have to take some more inspiration from this, because I felt I needed more bits by the end of it, and I sort of run out of greebles, gubbins and thingamabobs. But yeah, really highly inspirational. Highly recommend these channels. Great fun to watch as well. Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to go around and gather all the bits and pieces. I even used a bit of an old circuit board from an old bit of electronic LED thing I cannibalised last year. Kept the circuit board. I'm going to whack that onto the walls. It's just a case of going around and gluing things in. So yeah, I found these old plastic rods. I glued those on. Little bits of offcuts of plastic, I can do those. Offcuts of wire, I can glue those on. Just anything to add a bit of detail to the walls. And I'm just going to go around and just glue these in, adding various bits of details to the walls. And this was quite a fun project to do. What I have to do is make sure where there's two rooms that back up together, so they each wall forms a thick wall. Don't put anything on those sides. I did that multiple times, where it's like I glued something on the wall what I shouldn't have done, because there's going to be two bits fitting together, and I think that's what I'm doing right now on the screen right now. So I'll be gluing these in, and I'll be removing those. This will be a thing that I'll keep doing throughout this project. Here's where I realised I made another mistake. I glued those cardboard bits too close to the bottom of the wall, because the corridor tile has to sit flush with the wall, and with these wooden cardboard bits here, it just didn't sit flush. I had to then scrape off a bit from the bottom so it'll sit flush. Yeah, here's that Ethernet cable connector. So what I'm going to do is just chop off the front bit. I just want the front bit for this, so I'm just going to carefully chop it off, and then just get a bit of dowel and cut that to size and glue that onto all. I thought it made an interesting sort of shape. Yep, and here's what I was talking about earlier on, where I glued some bits onto a wall where I shouldn't, so I'm now having to go through, remove them, and scrape it all off. Once I've done that, I can get on, glue them where they should go, and then glue some of those rods as connecting sort of pipes or wires in between these two bits, and just do anything you can to think of what you can think of to make it visually interesting. I found some old sort of grating, I guess embroidery grating that you tried to use for windows once, didn't quite work out. But here would cut out squares for it here and just glue them on. And once I've got all the greebles and gubbins and thingamabobs glued on, I can just glue the pieces, the room pieces and the corridors down to a sheet of 1mm thick chipboards. It's stuff you get on the back of A4 pads, paper pads, legal pads in America or something like that. But yeah, just glue them down, and then it's not quite, these are about 300mm long, but these rooms are not quite that. They're like come to about 12mm, so I have to trim them up at the end, but I can glue them in, get them all glued in, and then trim up the board. And then, because just to tidy it up, sometimes I didn't get glue quite where I need to, so just squeezing some glue in. And now I printed them out in black FDM, but the first thing I'm going to do is undercoat them in black, and then I'm going to basically paint the walls in a dark grey first of all, and then some of the floors I am going to pick out in a dark grey. So I'm going to try and do a zenithal sort of highlight here. My original plan was this room I'm doing here is going to have a green floor. My original plan for this was going to do a zenithal highlight, doing a grey and then a light grey and a white, and then use contrast paint, orc flesh contrast paint to paint over it. I quickly realised that I don't have enough of the orc flesh contrast paint, so I'm just going to use some snot green. But I don't need to do this. But in other places where the rooms are sort of a grey blue, I'm going to paint those grey as well. Once the walls are dried, I can come in with a light grey and just do a sort of nice dry brush over the top to pick out the pieces. When it comes to the walls, I don't want them to be too I want them to be quite monochrome. So I want the miniatures to be the things that stand out on the board, and the walls to be, you know, kind of walls, just a flat background. I don't want it to be this clash. So it's going to be a minimal paint job on the walls. So it's just going to be grey, dry brush, pick out the odd bit of detail on switches, and that'll be it. So yes, back to that room where I was going to do it in contrast paint. I'm going to do it in snot green. So it's just going to be a case of coming through. I'm going to use a good brush to sort of do some edges, and then coming with a bit of a more rubbish brush just to dig in the middle bit, just to tidy it up. So snot green, ahoy! So looking at the pictures that I found of the room, this room appears to be sort of a bluey brown, so I thought shadow grey would be perfect for this. So this is just going to be a similar process, using a nice brush just to paint around the edges, and then a rubbish brush that's thicker just to get the middle bits painted. And that will be what I'll do for the rest of the room. Okay, on to the metallic rooms. As far as I can tell, it's sort of multiple different metallic colours. I've got three. I've got a bolt gun sort of which is like a dark metallic, chainmail which is a mid, and mithril silver which is light. I use classic DW paints, I've got loads. So I figured for these, I don't know what they're called, these the bits of the pattern, like you see them on drain covers. Oh my goodness, brain's gone. Let me know what this type of metal's called. We have those little patterns in, you can see. Anyway, get on with the show. These are going to be painted in chainmail. Nice brush around the edge, old brush for the middle. And then this room looked like it was going to be a like bright silver, a bluey silver. So for this, mithril silver again. I think where I was going. Good brush for the edging, old brush for the middle. Whilst I got the mithril out, what I'm going to do is go back to the walls and pick out all those sort of pipes. I'm going to paint those in sort of that mithril silver too. Also, whilst I've got the mithril silver out, I'm going to do some scratch edge highlighting. I don't know if there's a technical term for this, but anyway, this is where this is the whole of the ship, so it's going to be metal. It's been coated in some sort of plastic or paint, and that's chipped away, revealing the metal underneath. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just going to go around to all the sort of greebles, gubbins, and thingamabobs, just around the edges, just with a sort of dotty motion, just so it looks like paint's been chipped away and what have you. Okay, so on this board, this room looked like it was white, so I thought I'd try this white contrast paint. I'm not very good at painting white, so I thought I'd try it. In the end, just for spoilers, I didn't like it. I thought it looked grey, so I ended up painting it just sort of a bit white anyway. But for now, I thought I could get away with this white paint, which is grey, so that's good. Next up, the corridors. These are a dark metallic, so I'm going to bolt gun metal for this, which I think now is called lead belcher metal. Now it's going to paint this all over. Old brush around the new brush around the edges, old brush from the middle, just to stab it in. Then in this room, painted this bit in chainmail, just so it looked like it was metallic. So yeah, here's where I decided it looks grey, so I'm painting it. This isn't exactly white, this is like a really light grey off white, and I'm thinning it down a bit so it's not consistent opacity to it, so bits of the grey come through, so it looks weathered and old. Okay, back to the green room. For this, I need some bit of extra detail into it, so I'm going to use some orc wash. And boy, I've forgotten how good this stuff smells. It's so when using these washes, always have a sniff. Yeah, it's just yeah, that smells good. Now we're getting onto the wash stage. I'm going to be doing sort of two types of washes. One you've just sort of seen, which is a detailed wash, and then later on I'm going to be doing a weathering wash. So I've got two different types of black wash here. I've got this coat to arms armor wash. It's slightly blacky brown. What I'm going to do for this is use this to wash over bits I want darkened down, so all the metallic bits. So like here, I'm going over the corridors and all the rooms. And the other wash I had just then is a Nern Oil gloss. Don't think they even sell this anymore. Let me know if they do. What this is, it's like a Nern Oil, but when it dries it's very shiny. So I'll be using this to do some weathering later on, like oil dripping and splodges of oil, and great for oil, amazing for oil, and it sort of looks sticky when it's dry, wet and sticky. It's great for this, but for now this is like more just a detail wash using this coat of arms, which is quite an oily wash itself, but it dries more matte. So yeah, well, same with all the rest of the rooms. I'm just going to go in and give all the metallic rooms a wash. So using the same wash, just ever so slightly watered down, I'm going to paint the sort of grey blue rooms in it as well. Probably put too much on here, but a little goes a long way for this. I don't want it to look grey or black or anything, but yeah, I can use this to to put onto other places as well. So that's what I'm doing here. Okay, this silver room, on the board it looks a bit blue silver, so I figured I've got this old blue ink. This is really high pigment, so I thought if I try water it down and again using my dirty paint water just to prime this place up as well, a bit of weathering and detailing in one, I was going to paint over this. A small amount goes a long way here, just to get that little flecks of blue onto the silver. And even though I used a little bit, I still thought it was too much, so I'm going to come in with a paper towel and just dab some off. Dab. Just some in the recesses and just a little bit here and there. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the other rooms now quickly, sort of speed run them. Most of the rooms, most of the other bits and pieces are the same process. But this one is sort of a cream colour, so I'm going to use some watered down skeleton horde just to bring out some detail. On the board, this looks all crackled. I didn't realise that until quite later on. Wish I got some of that Games Workshop technical paints that do the crackling. Maybe I'll revisit this. Also, that big circle in the middle, that should be some sort of leaves. So this didn't print out with the leaves, so I'm just going to paint that bit green. And probably worried about what the details on the circles at a future date, not in this video. So here we got in this room had the number 2. This room's quite similar enough, but different enough to what it is on the board. So I'm going to pick out in sort of 2 different types of orange here. So the 2 will be a dark orange, and the outer bits will be a lighter orange. That's what I'm just going over here and printing these. There's probably more orange on the actual proper game board than what's on this that would allow me to do this one, so that's why I printed the sort of outer bit. But it rings, you recognise this from the game board. It's not an exact one-to-one match, but it's my own copy of the game, so I'm happy with that. Okay, going back to those rooms, so I can't remember what the texture's called. I decided the wash had sort of dulled it down too much. I'm just going over with a very light dry brush of the chainmail again, just to pick up the raised bumps. And I'm sure the name of this stuff will come to me way after I've edited this, uploaded it, probably at 2 o'clock this morning, in the morning. Okay, we're getting on some details now. I'm going to use this red contrast paint to print these wires, and I added a wire going up the wall on each of them because it looked like they were going into the wall. I thought I might as well going up to the ceiling. And so that's what I'm doing here, just printing out this. And whilst you got this red out, on the wall I made some sort of buttons and what have you on the greeble section, greeble gubbins and thingamabobs. Pick some of those out in this red as well. And whilst you got this red out, you can use it to do the blood splatter. So I'm really heavily loading it on my brush and then just sort of splatting it on anywhere. I'm going to flick in the brush hairs around just so it splats on. So painting bits on and then trying to splatter on. What I found in the end works best, just to load it up, bend over and blow it all over the place, and that looks great. But yeah, just getting some blood into the rooms that need blood. Now that we're done with the red, we can return to that room and paint the other wire blue, and use that blue, same blue as contrast paint blue, just to paint some other buttons. I painted in blues, reds and greens, I think, the buttons. And that is the basic paintwork done. Let's paint some doors. It requires, here's something you can help me out with. It says 24 doors I needed. Oh, I looked at the contents, but the wall sections I'll be doing next video have 8 doors in. Do those 8 doors on the wall sections count to the 24 doors here? I haven't looked. I should look at the book mission to see the setup. I haven't yet. Let me know in the comments below about that. Anyway, for the doors, I'm just painting them this dark grey from Games Workshop. I forget what it's called. Do I have it here? I do have it here. Mechanicus Standard Grey. So all the doors are going to get base coated in that. Once that's dry, I'm going to come in and do a dry brush of a lighter grey. This is almost similar to how I did the walls, to be honest. But one thing to note is around the edges of the doors, I'm going heavier with the grey. So I almost want it to be pure grey on the edges and maybe the slats on this one here. But just these bits here, I'm going to go heavier. And on the doors that don't have the rim around the edge, I'm sort of painting one in. So going heavier with grey, sort of giving it a trim around the edge of this light grey. And what I quickly realised is dry brush in the middle and then come around with a good paintbrush to do that trim. Live and learn, live and learn. Once the trim is dried, I'm going to come in with a yellow contrast paint and just paint around that trim with it. So the doors sort of have a bit of yellow in, so they stand out a bit on the board. Yeah, it's good. And then going to come in with the mithril silver and just do that dotty edge highlighting to, again, pick out bits where paint tripped away, revealing the metal door below, underneath. Doing this particularly on edges and around that yellow trim where that definitely paints that sort of chipped off. It's my favourite part of any project, it's my favourite painting part of any project, drawing project, and that's the weathering. I think, especially when I'm doing something that's quite a basic paint job, it's all in the weathering. So first up, let's take that glossy Nern oil and just drip it down the walls as like just grime running down the walls, oil and what have you. I'm going to paint those silver pipes in it where they're, I don't know, perhaps that's what's carrying the fuel around the ship and it's leaking because it's old and what have you. Okay, if you've got dirty down rust, use dirty down rust. I don't have any dirty down rust, but I do have Reikland Flesh Shade. Yeah, when this dries, it dries rusty. It's like cheapo rust look. I should get some dirty down rust. But anyway, I'm just going to add some rust in, and that's what I'm using this for. So yeah, just get some Reikland Flesh Shade and just put it all over where you want some rust. I'm sort of roughly following, got the picture of the board up on the computer screen, so I'm roughly following where the rust would be, but really, rule of thumb, it's just all around the edges of this grating here. I'll add it into other places as well, into the green room, just to add into the corridors, and just basically wherever I want rust. Don't forget to add it to the walls in places, like on the gratings and things. Rust. I'm going to come in with some Nern oil now and add some more patches of oil and floor. I added, first of all, in these ones here, I added like a patch of the rust, and then in the middle of that, I've added the oil patch. So it's been leaking for ages, or perhaps oil from the top, and it's just rust in the floor. The board also has these dark streaks. I'm just using this to add in the dark streaks. Okay, so what I want to do now is add in some dust weathering. So for this, we have to raid your wife's art supplies for the pastels that we're going to be using. So we move all our stuff without her knowing, take the box out, and then quickly realise you picked up the wrong box. Put that all back, grab the box that you think should have the pastels in, take it over to your desk, open it up, realise you've made another mistake, put that back and put everything back in place so she won't know, and quickly realise the pastels are in this easily accessible drawer. Take those over to the work area and get some pastels. What we're going to be using is some sort of yellows, browns and sort of oranges, just some pastels. I'm going to get an old stainling knife blade, so when you change your stainling knife blade, if you use pastels, just keep one blade by for this, and you're just going to, brilliant shot there, just great, hands in the way. Anyway, just get the blade across the pastel and just scrape it all over the place. And you do this with different colors. I try and do a different camera angle than overhead, and just realized my big paws are in the way for the shot. Oh my goodness. Anyway, yeah, so we're just going to go around and add different colors of pastel, and then we're going to get a clean soft bristled brush and just swirl that round, just brushing the dust into the board. Going to do this on the floor, add it onto the walls as well, and it really looks like aged dust. I love this technique is great. And with the weathering done, this part of the project is done. The boards are complete, they're painted and they're ready to go. We just need to do a lot more work now. This was potentially the easiest part of the project, even though it's looked great. It's nice and 3D. I'm really happy with them. Yeah, next up I'm going to be doing the walls, and we've still got the paper bits to do, like the tokens and the board bits, and consoles, and we've got the miniatures to sort out now. The miniatures are going to be a bit I'm worried about. It's going to be expensive, but I feel trying to get hold of. So I could use modern miniatures, but the problem with that is modern 40k seems to be bigger, like the bases are bigger, and the board is 1 inch square. It's going to have to be old school, old hammer type miniatures, and I do like that aesthetic anyway. The older thing, it's my generation of the look of things, so I want to get hold of them. I do want to get the original board pieces as much as possible, but that is a future Kev problem to worry about. For now, I want to take the time to say thank you for watching. Yeah, please let me know what colour I should print up the Space Marines as. Colour, group, Blood Angels, Ultramarines and Imperial Fist. Let me know that in the comments, and let me know what you think about this project, and if someone's getting into 40k, where should they start getting some good books or something to read. Let me know that down below as well. Again, know nothing about 40k, that'd be nice to read a book about them. But that's it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching. You are awesome. Like, comment, subscribe, share this video around so it gets a bit of traction. Let's have a look at the final thing, and until the next video, guys, stay safe, take care, bye 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 bye.